Good morning, everybody. This is the 2024 Jobs for New England webinar. We're going to get started in a few minutes. I just see a lot of people signing on right now, so sit tight and I'll be right back with you. Just before we get started, I was hoping to see anybody, make sure everybody can hear me. If you wouldn't mind just clicking the raise your hand button if you can hear this. That way I know we can get started. Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Pingpank. I'm the program manager here at the Federal Home Loan Bank for the Jobs for New England program. I am one of the community investment managers at the bank, working in our housing and community investment group. One of the programs that we offer is our Jobs for New England program. This is designed to assist our members with providing small business customers with below market rates on loans for their businesses. Jobs for New England was started back in 2016. It has been a really well-loved program with tremendous success. Since it was started, we've helped create and preserve over 12,000 jobs. About a quarter of all of our members have participated, and we've seen over 800 transactions. What J&E has done is provided over $335 million in advances to small businesses throughout New England, giving them below market rates on their financing for loans that help their businesses grow, help retain jobs, help create jobs, things like that. As part of that, the Federal Home Loan Bank has committed over $34 million in interest rate subsidy to create these below market rates. Quite simply, J&E is 0% funding for our members. You turn around, take that money out of one pocket, put it in the other, and make a discounted rate loan to your small businesses while you still get to make your same spread on the deal. And I'll get into that in a second. So J&E, like I said, is designed to stimulate local economies and promote job creation and retention. For those of you familiar with the program, a lot of these notes for 2024 will be familiar. This year, we're going to be funding it with $5 million of interest rate subsidy. So what we're doing is we're taking Home Loan Bank funds. This year, it's going to be $5 million, and we're going to use that on the back end to create a 0% rate to you, where you take down those funds from us. It's a classic advance from anywhere from 1 to 10 years at 0%. You would just take the principal that you need for your borrowers, and we calculate the interest rate subsidy on the backside. This year, we have 4 planned funding releases, March 6th, May 8th, July 10th, and September 11th. Members will be capped at a cumulative annual subsidy of $100,000 with the first release, jumping up to $150,000 in May and $250,000 in July, and that's where it will stay for the rest of the year. When we talk about J&E, it is a subsidy-based award, meaning this is the funds that we will use to create that 0% advance. There is no cap on the advance that you'll take, but there is a cap on the subsidy calculation that we're going to be using. And we put this in place last year to help balance out participation across our membership. J&E is a very competitive program, and we wanted to make sure that folks had an equal shot of accessing some of the funds. J&E is allocated on a first-come, first-served basis. The way our application system works is if the system lets you submit an application, you have funding reserved pending our approval of the application. So we don't have a waiting list or anything like that. Simply, if the application is let through, that funding is reserved. If you get hit with an error, it's either there's something wrong with your application or the funding has dropped below your request. J&Es will always be a 0% rate. If there's not enough subsidy available to take the advance that you'd like for your borrower, we can allow you to. You can absolutely do a blended rate. We can do a note to your borrower that will have a market rate conversion at some point, so J&E can be front loaded. We can get really creative with how J&E subsidy is passed through, but essentially the way the program is designed is you take the money from us at 0%, you attach your normal spread on the deal and provide that rate to your borrower. So your customer or member benefits obviously with a tremendously discounted rate. You benefit because you're still making your normal spread on the deal. And the third peg of this is the Home Loan Bank benefits, because this is part of our mission to assist communities with economic development initiatives. So the basics, how does J&E work? Like I said, it's a market rate commercial loan. The members, you take at the simplest terms, you take the member's cost of funds index plus the member spread equals the borrower loan. The loan to the borrower has a price for the funds and a price for the member's risk and profit. With J&E, you simply replace that cost of funds with a 0, because you're borrowing the money from us at 0%. You add your normal spread for a comparable loan of risk and term, and pass that rate along to your borrower. So they end up with a below market rate. The J&E advance eliminates the cost of fund index and creates a borrower loan based solely on the member's required spread. So that is the simplest way to look at it. We can definitely get more complex as your loan to your borrower develops. We can figure out different ways for J&E to go into the deal, but essentially this is how it works. It is designed to be very simple. Our application takes 3 minutes to complete. The hardest part with J&E is getting the funds allocated, because, like I said, it is very competitive. J&E is really 2 loans. Loan 1, the member bank is borrowing a classic advance at 0% for a term of 1 to 10 years from the Home Loan Bank. So the member bank or credit union. J&E does not get sent. J&E subsidy does not get sent to the member. It's what we use to create that 0% rate on a classic advance. So you're just taking down a classic advance from us at 0%. Loan 2, the member bank or credit union uses the funds borrowed through the J&E classic advance to make a commercial loan to the small business at a reduced rate. That is the simplest way of looking at it. It is your loan to your customer. We do not get involved in your underwriting. We simply have a few program guidelines for what is eligible, but this is your loan to your borrower. You don't even submit your underwriting to us. The application consists of basic information: who's the business, where are they located, and 2 to 3 sentences about how the funds will be used, and that's it. We don't get involved with your lending decisions. How you decide to use these J&E funds is up to you. In terms of prioritizing borrowers, because, like I said, it is very competitive. So these subsidy amounts are an up to amount. You're not guaranteed the subsidy benefit through J&E, but we can definitely get you geared up and ready for it to get your priorities settled ahead of when we have the funding drops planned. But again, J&E is really 2 loans. You're borrowing from us. You'll take that classic advance at 0%, and then you use that to replace the cost of funds indicator on your borrower loan with a 0. But still, allowing for the member financial institution to charge your normal spread on the deal. I realize that that sometimes loans are priced at, say, prime plus half or something like that, and we absolutely understand that replacing prime with zero and only adding 0.5% would take away some of the profit that you planned to get on the deal. What we ask is look at your loan when you put in the application and figure out what part of that rate would actually be your spread, and that's what you'll be charging your customer. So we don't, if you normally would price a loan at prime plus 1 or something like that, we don't expect you to give your borrower a loan of 1%. If your spread is somewhere in the the range of 250 to 450 or something like that, then go ahead and charge it. And it's really going to be on your honor. You enter it into the application. You tell us what you plan to charge this borrower and what you would normally charge the borrower for a spread. And as long as your spread for the J&E rate doesn't exceed your spread for a market rate, then you're in good shape. J&E does not have a borrowing limit in terms of the advance that you can take. The only thing that caps J&E is the interest subsidy calculation that we'll use. So a term of 1 year on a J&E advance would allow you to take a much larger advance than, say, a term of 10 years, which you use a lot more of that interest rate subsidy. So it will bring the advance borrowing limit down a bit. So how you benefit? It's no cost funding, 0% rate on a classic advance. J&E, like I said, is always going to be 0. We adjust the advance or the term instead of raising the rate to meet the advance that you need. You can blend J&E funds that are subsidized with unsubsidized funds. So we don't expect you to ever take a hit on your anticipated profit on a small business deal. J&E lets you take advantage of long-term funding on a 1 to 10-year advance. You can combine it with other funding sources to lower your cost of funds. This does have the potential for CRA credit. You can offer small business loans at below market rates. These are going to be rates that will be hard to touch for anybody else because again, the cost of funds indicator is 0 on this for you. And like I said, you get a competitive advantage by doing this while maintaining your normal margin. So as you may guess, this is what has caused the high demand in the program. And over the years, we have tweaked it a little bit to try to balance out some of that demand and get everybody a chance to access the funds. Those of you that are new to the program, I am happy to set up a time to chat before the funding drop on March 6th to make sure that you're positioned to submit an application or 2 or 3 or however many you'd like to do. There is no limit on the number of applications you can submit. There is just, again, that limit on the subsidy that can be reserved. So again, J&E, anywhere from 1 to 10 years. Our system is designed at the time of application to take whole years, but when we do the actual advance, we can do partial years to round out to maximize the subsidy. We do have a standard prepayment fee attached to these advances. However, it is going to be reduced by the unamortized subsidy. So in practice, J&E should never have a prepayment fee to the members. That being said, we always encourage you to just include some language in your borrower note to say that should the J&E advance generate a fee, that your borrower would be on the hook for paying that in the event of a prepayment. But again, J&E is really designed to never have a prepayment fee. But just in case something happens with rates or anything like that, we always say, make sure you're covered. J&E does have a subsidy floor of $5,000 per project. So that's the interest rate subsidy on the deal. For a 5-year advance, using that as an example, that comes out to roughly $30,000, $35,000 these days on the actual principal that you'd be taking down. So who can participate on this? For members, those that meet the capital stock requirements and collateral requirements and are eligible for long-term advances. CDFIs may participate with the depository member providing a pass-through. If you do have a CDFI project, give me a call, shoot me an email. I will happily talk through how to set it up in our system. It's a bit of a square peg in a round hole situation because what we eventually want to do is have a single project in the system for each borrower on the CDFI side. J&E is a project by project application. It is not designed to create a members loan pool. So you're going to be submitting, for normal J&E projects, you're going to be submitting individual funding requests from businesses. This is not to create your own funding pool to provide below market rates. So in the case of a CDFI, it is essentially a pool because you're going to be passing through a chunk of money to the CDFI, who will then be using that to create small business loans. And we do have a workaround for this. So again, just give me a call and I can describe how to put it into an application for the funding drop. So borrowers, we're going to be looking for small businesses as defined by the SBA and requiring financing that meets J&E loan eligibility requirements. So we'll get into that in a second. So J&E, the loan eligibility criteria, we have two sets of criteria. One is the program goals, and the other is the actual use of funds. So on the goal side, we have 7 different ways for a project to qualify. All you need to do is meet one of these 7. The 2 most common are job creation and retention. As I said, we've helped create and preserve over 12,000 jobs since 2016. So the way that we look at it, if you're coming in under job creation, we're looking for 1 job for every $25,000 of program subsidy. That's not the advance, that's the subsidy itself that we're going to be calculating on the backside. So for, say, a $500,000 loan, you might be using $100,000 of subsidy. If you're coming in under job creation, that would just have to create 4 jobs. Or you can demonstrate that jobs would be lost in the community if the loan wasn't made. So job retention. For job retention, we actually do not have that calculation. So no matter what the size of the loan, if you can check off a box that says this is going to help stabilize a business and retain jobs, then it will be eligible under the program goals criteria. Some of our lesser used criteria are for economic development. So we're looking to improve, diversify, or stabilize the economy of a community, stimulate other business development within the community, revitalize a business district or community with a written plan, expanding a business owned and controlled by women, veterans, minorities, or disabled persons, or to modernize or upgrade facilities to meet health, safety, and environmental requirements. So the eligibility net for J&E is very wide. We have seldom come across a project that cannot meet one of these program goals. If you do have questions about that, please give me a call before you get discouraged and don't apply, because we can usually find a way through. I think out of the hundreds of applications we've received, I don't know of very many that we have said, oh, we just can't meet this. Maybe 2 or 3 have had a hard time meeting one of these goals. So we can generally make it work. So just kind of talking about the subsidy here. So actually, just to go back, so I mentioned we have the program goals. The actual use of funds is going to follow the SBA 504 program loosely. So we're looking for fixed assets here. J&E cannot be used for inventory, working capital, or lines of credit, and it can also not be used for real estate speculation. So that's the use eligibility for J&E. We do allow for real estate purchases if it is for the direct benefit of the business. So if you're a brewery that's buying the building, or a restaurant that's buying the building, or a medical practice that's buying a building, that's great. If your borrower plans to lease out extra space in the building, that's absolutely fine. We don't even have parameters for the percentage of the building that is being used by that business. So, for example, if a brewery is buying a warehouse and they're going to be using 35% of the space and they're going to be leasing out the rest of it, that's absolutely fine. We do not say that they have to use 51% of the space. We understand that that business is buying the building for the stability of their own business, and the lease income is secondary. Obviously, it will help with the stability of the applicant, of their business long term, but we understand that they're buying this building for the benefit of the business. The same is true. We get quite a few medical applications, dental practices, that sort of thing, where they're going to condo out the building and lease out, say, 75% of it. That's absolutely fine, as long as you can tell us that they're buying that building to expand or stabilize their practice. That's great. We're happy to see that come in. So just to talk about the power of J&E and what the subsidy leverages. I've kind of touched on this a little bit, but you can see here, just using some examples of kind of ballpark rates of where we are today. On a 5-year advance, what we're doing with J&E is we're taking the CDA extra rate and we're using subsidy to buy that down to 0. So right now, the 5-year advance, or at least the other day when I did this, the rate was 4.14. Using a calculator that we have available on the website, that would come out to a max of about $539,000 for this first funding drop, because that would use up $100,000 of subsidy. As you can see, as we move along to a 10-year advance, that the advance amount would drop to $281, using again that $100,000 of subsidy. But if you take a shorter advance, it can go up a lot more, up to $845,000 on a 3-year advance. So we can get very creative with matching the subsidy with what you need for your borrower. If you have a startup business that really needs a low introductory rate to get their feet off the ground, we can kind of front end load the J&E. If they need a $750,000 advance or something like that, a loan to start up, take it for 3 or 4 years, and then you would give your borrower a note that has a low rate built in for those first few years, and then it converts to a market rate after that. We're absolutely fine with you doing that, so that way they have some assurances for the term of the borrowing. But you're also going to be covered. So when the J&E advance matures, you're going to be able to pay that off and then turn around and still provide the funding that the business needs, but at a market rate, the J&E subsidy would be out of the deal at that point. So how can J&E benefit your customer? Here's just a very simple example. Using an interest rate of, say it was classic advance at 4.26, and you're going to charge 2.75, your customer's interest rate would normally be about 7 on that. With J&E, we're going to be taking that interest rate all the way down to 0 on the cost of funds. You're going to put your normal spread on top of that, and your customer is going to see a 2.75 rate for the first 5 years of their loan. That is an amazing selling tool. We have seen a whole lot of business owners with tears of joy when they see this. It's an amazing program, especially now with rates where they are. The difference between what this market rate is and what J&E can provide is amazing. And your customers, your members are going to have a hard time finding a better rate than this. Just kind of a example. So again, we do have the online calculator is available on our website. What you do is you go to our website to get the long-term classic advance rates and look at CDA Extra and find the term that you're looking for. So in this case, let's say it's a 5-year term. CDA Extra is 4.14. Your customer needs $495,000 for 5 years. Your spread is 300 basis points. The CDA Extra classic advance rate is 4.14. J&E's rate is 0. This is going to reserve $91,704 in J&E subsidy. And your borrower will then see a rate of 3%, which is equal to your spread. That $91,704 never actually leaves the home loan bank. You are going to draw $495,000 from us at 0%. That $91,704 is a back-end calculation for us. We will reduce your available subsidy by the $91,704 for the round, leaving you with about $8,000 to play with for the first funding drop. But then it'll go back up in May to $150. So then you'd have about $58,000 to use for another advance. And then obviously in July, when it goes up to $250, you'd be up to $158,000 that you could use in subsidy again. J&E is a program that we, as I said, we reserve the subsidy for you. We do not guarantee the advance. We do have to recalculate what the subsidy will buy for you at the time that you actually take down the funds. So if that CDA Extra rate goes up, it's going to require more subsidy for that $495,000 advance, using this example. If we have available subsidy in the pool at that time and it does not exceed your cap for the round, whatever the cap is at that point, we can give it to you. But if we are unable to give you more subsidy, you will need to either reduce your advance or reduce the term to bring that calculator back into alignment with the subsidy you have reserved. However, if this is the case, you can give your borrower a blended rate. You can change the term, the fixed period of the loan. Say you had to drop it to 4 years. You could absolutely do that in the note. What you put in for the application, we can adjust in terms of the advance or the term that you're looking for. We're happy to kind of work with you as your project develops. Quite often, these applications are coming in very early in a deal when you essentially have an application in from your borrower, and we're happy to see that J&E gets dispersed to you before you actually give that final rate to your borrower, just in case there's not enough subsidy to cover what the calculation should be. So that way you're always going to be covered. So if the rate goes up and we don't have more subsidy to give you, you're not saying, oh, we already quoted you a 3% rate. Just come back and talk to us and we'll figure it out before you give your customer that final rate. Now, just here's another quick example of a 10-year term, $225,000, member spread of 350. So in this case, the classic rate is 4.44. That's going to use about $78,000 of subsidy, and your end rate to the borrower is 350. So the original rate would have been 7.94, reduced to 350 with J&E subsidy. The member maintains that 350 basis point margin. That's really the simple way of looking at J&E, and obviously it does get a little bit drawn out when we start talking about changes in rate and things like that. There's no obligation when you put in an application to take down the funds. There's if something happens with your deal and it falls apart, you just shoot me an email and say, hey, this deal's not happening anymore. I'll release the subsidy back to the pool, and somebody else can grab it. So if this just, if the calculation doesn't work out or anything like that, I encourage you to put in those applications, and if you reserve funding, we can really dial into what the rate will be to your borrower. So J&E is versatile. Like I mentioned before, we can combine it with other sources. You can do blended rates, low intro rate on an adjustable note. And the J&E project request can be adjusted to fit what our members and your borrowers need. The application is reserving a set amount of subsidy, but within that parameter, within that guideline there, we can adjust what you ultimately need before you close on the deal. So here's just an example on a 504 project. J&E is going to take out the member loan on the project and discount that, so that when you're looking at the 50% of a $1.05 million project, the member loan is going to be $525,000. In this case, that would use about $97,000 of subsidy. And then you've got the 504 loan at 40% and the owner equity at 10%. J&E is not a loan guarantee program. What we are doing is we are simply providing our member financial institutions with a 0% advance, a 0% loan. We expect you to do your normal underwriting on the deal. You will be responsible to us, obviously, for what you take down from us. But ultimately, that's why we do not get involved in your underwriting, because it's the same risk. So just a couple quick examples that we have here from businesses that have really benefited from J&E. This one was up in Vermont, I believe. A restaurant called Taco Gordo. They started as a food cart and opened a permanent location in 2018 with the help of J&E. The startup business created 8 to 10 jobs for the local economy, and additional benefit for the member financial institution. In this case, it was $144,000 advance that used about $19,000 of subsidy on a 5-year term, and ultimately did create 8 jobs. This is a recent one down in Connecticut for a farm that utilized J&E on a $308,000 advance using $43,000 of subsidy on a 5-year term. And this was a case where the new owners were taking over for on a farm where they had been managing it, and J&E is a perfect use for that, buying out owners to buy the business. It's a great use for J&E. We have this all the time, whether it's essentially a 1-for-1, buying out old owners, or sometimes we even have it with partnerships. If, say, there's 3 owners and one of them wants to tap out of the business, and the new owners want to buy that third person out. The other 2 owners want to buy the third person out. That's absolutely eligible for J&E. And here's a great story. A restaurant and brewery in Rhode Island that's actually used J&E twice. There is no limit for the number of times or the amount of funding that a business can access through J&E. So this was a startup in 2017, a $300,000 advance using $28,000 of subsidy on a 5-year term, and it helped create 28 jobs. The business was so successful that they expanded in 2021 with a total advance total of $358,000, and that was actually through 2 different tranches of J&E funding, one for the real estate to buy the location, and another for the equipment for the build out. Combined, it was another $59,000 of subsidy on a 10-year term and helped create 20 new jobs. This is just, it's an amazing story about how our members and small businesses can really benefit through the J&E program, especially when we're looking at startups or buying businesses, things like that, where you just, every penny counts, and to be able to provide such an amazing rate to these borrowers will give them a leg up when starting a new business. In this case, it's already challenging enough. And here's another one with a $430,000 advance that we had. I think this was last year, the year before, using $70,000 of subsidy on a 10-year term. This was up in New Hampshire, and Dr. Wilson was able to use J&E funding to launch a new veterinary facility that provides acupuncture and rehab and physical therapy for pets. If you go onto her website, this last time I was there, the number of just happy reviews and everything like that on there were great. And hearing from the member on this, it's provided this business owner with a tremendous benefit to launch her new business. And just one more here, $1 million advance on a manufacturing operation using about $100,000 of subsidy, and they created 40 jobs. And this one, they used it to acquire a new facility, allowing the company to serve a new business line and create the jobs. So you can get really creative with how J&E works. Essentially, it's a very simple process with 3 key steps. Step 1, you identify the borrower, underwrite your deal. J&E eligibility is based loosely on the 504 program, but it's not a loan guarantee. You can submit a J&E request before your underwriting is done. Again, there's no obligation to take the funds. If you complete your underwriting and decide that this is a deal that you're just not willing to go for, quite often what members will do is put in an application for J&E when you have an application from your borrower, but do not tell your borrower that you're going for J&E until you know that you have secured the funds, because it is very competitive. It's not guaranteed that you're going to get it. So you don't want to let them down, but it's always something nice to tell them that, hey, we're going to be able to get you a really good deal on this after you have the funding reserved. So that brings us to step 2, apply for J&E, complete and submit the online project application. You're going to need a community lending login to reserve the funding. You can get that on our website if you don't already have it. You do need community lending credentials to be able to access the application. I believe it's in the upper right-hand corner. This is different than our online banking portal, which is limited to very few folks from each member institution. Community lending, anybody from your institution can get a login to reserve funding. That being said, if you have multiple users, multiple loan officers angling for the funds, it's generally best to have a bit of an internal clearinghouse to decide your priority for which applications you want to submit. Again, it's competitive, and I've heard from members that it's generally more useful on their end to kind of figure out which applications you want to earmark for J&E funding, and then prioritize the order that you want to try to submit them instead of stepping on each other's toes. But it is up to you. Everybody can get a community lending login. You cannot share user IDs. It'll crash your system, and you won't be able to reserve any funding if you try to have multiple users in the same account at the same time. So please, just everybody can get their own. We'll get those approved for you within a day or 2 after you submit it. And once you submit that application, we'll send you an email to notify you that it's been approved. Again, this is a subsidy award, not a rate lock. Awards are at risk of rate shock until the funds are dispersed. But if you can successfully submit an application, you do have funding reserved. pending our approval. In step 3, the member calls into the member funding desk to request disbursement. Again, it's just taking down a classic advance at 0%. And then the follow-up reporting is very simple. All you have to do is within 30 days of taking down the funds is submit the signed borrower note into our system, and that's it. There's no other long-term reporting or anything due. Just give us the signed note and you're done. That follow-up reporting is our very minimal compliance for J&E. In the report, you're just going to be checking off a few boxes to confirm that the funds were used as you had specified in the application. And you're going to confirm that the spread doesn't exceed your typical spread for a loan of comparable risk and term. And that's it. It's very simple. The application, like I said, takes about 3 minutes. The report takes about 30 seconds. And you are going to be able to secure an amazing benefit for your small business customers. Some key dates for this year. The portal opens today. That means you have until March 6th, when we actually drop the funds, to start to work through applications. Take a look at that. Take a look at the application. If you have any questions, especially new users, anybody that's new to the program, feel free to give me a call and I'm happy to set up some time. It'll take us about 10-20 minutes to talk through your applications. You can type it in as we're on the phone, and I can get you ready for when that funding drops. Again, applications are going to be for specific projects borrowers. You may submit multiple requests, but it again is not to create your own loan pool unless it's a CDFI. It's first come, first serve funding. We don't maintain a waiting list. And completed applications can only be submitted if there's sufficient funding in the pool. So right now, if you try to complete an application and hit submit, you're going to get an error message. And that's because there is no money in the pool. So that is expected. And don't worry that you're seeing that as you go through. Funding will be added on March 6th at 9 a.m. exactly. So what you should be ready to do is have your application all set up on your screen. Exactly at 9 a.m., hit the tab for validate and submit. The system will do a final check for errors. They'll bring you to a print screen. Do not stop on that screen. There is still another screen after the print screen of the application. You'll see in the upper right-hand corner a red button that says continue to submit. Click that, and it'll bring you to another page where you actually have to sign and submit the application. You'll sign exactly as your name is written below, and you'll submit the application. At that point, you'll either get a little pop-up that says thank you for your submission, or it will take you to an error page. And odds are at that point, if you're getting an error, it means the subsidy has already dropped below what your request is. Additional subsidy will be added on May 8th, July 10th, and September 11th. The round will be open for funding applications March 6th through December, I believe it's 20th this year. So as deals progress, sometimes they do fall off. It is December 20th this year. Sorry. Occasionally, members will say, okay, you know what, this deal fell apart. I'll drop the funding back into the pool. So there may be funding that does appear at other times other than when we have our 4 planned funding drops. And you are free to get it at any time. You can log into the system and you'll see a subsidy tally of what's available at that point. And if you see in April or something that there's enough subsidy for you to submit an application, go right ahead. J&E is one long funding round from essentially from March 6th until December 20th, and with just 4 key dates where that we will be adding significant funds to the pool. Members have up to 90 days to draw the funds following our approval, or by December 31st at noon. J&E is a calendar-based program. If the money's not out by noon on December 31st, it goes away. If you need more than 90 days after you have that approval, just shoot me an email and we'll give you an extension. All we need to know is that the deal is still alive. And we absolutely understand that commercial deals quite often do not follow a very linear calendar. You can run into any number of challenges along the way. And as long as you can tell us that money is still going, we'll keep it reserved for you. Again, the rate is not guaranteed. It is subject to recalculation when you take the funds. So the sooner you can take it from the time of application, the better idea you'll have for how the buying power of J&E. But above all, please plan to take the J&E advance down before you give your borrower the final rate, before they're closing. That way, in case rates go up and J&E needs to reduce the advance that we send you and you want to give your borrower a blended rate to make sure you're covered, you will have that time built in. So you can take it up to 30 days before you actually close. What I generally say is once you have a closing date earmarked, take down the J&E funds, and then you can give your borrower the final rate. And again, it's just a single follow-up is due within 30 days. Where to apply? housing.fhlbboston.com. And on our website, we have a bunch of information on the FAQ page and program guidelines that kind of runs through everything with J&E. There's several of us that you can contact. I'm the point person on the program, but Kathleen Amante, Toby Goldberg, and Ken Willis can also provide help if you have any questions about it. Just let us know, and we can walk through applications with you. We can answer any questions that you may have with J&E. Please don't get discouraged about all of this talk of subsidy and rate resets and everything. J&E is designed to be a simple program. It is a 0% advance to you that you take that free money and loan it out to your business customer at a reduced rate. The full benefit of that J&E subsidy is essentially getting passed through to the borrower in the form of a rate reduction. You will benefit by still charging your normal spread, your normal underwriting. We're not asking you to change anything with that. So I do have a few questions I see here. J&E, let's see. A bunch of questions are flowing in and I can't even keep up with them here. So does it count towards our borrowing limits with FHLB? Yes, J&E is a classic advance, just like our other classic advances, and it will have be counted against your normal borrowing limits with the bank. In terms of J&E itself, there is no limit to the advance itself. But like I said before, it is considered it is a classic advance. It just happens to be at a 0% rate instead of a market rate. So federal credit unions cannot charge a prepayment penalty in their notes. How do we handle the potential prepayment fee in this situation? J&E in practice has never had a 0% or a fee on a 0% advance. We allow you to utilize the unamortized subsidy to cover any potential fee. In that situation, you could feel fairly confident knowing that that there wouldn't be a fee and you wouldn't be left holding the bag. But if you have any questions on that, I can definitely have you put you in touch with our funding desk, and they can kind of go into the particulars of how the fee itself is calculated, just to make you feel more comfortable with that. My recommendation for putting the language in the notes is just kind of the simple way. But I would recommend in this situation that since you can't include that language, just give our funding desk a call and they can kind of, probably help put you at ease in terms of how the fee is calculated. But again, we've never had a fee on a 0% advance. In 2021, when federal rate the funds rate was like 0.4, we had some old J&Es. Back in 2019, the J&E rate was 1%. And we had some very small prepayment fees in that case. But now with J&E back to 0%, there should not be a fee. Another question is, will updates on remaining subsidy be emailed to members? The subsidy pool constantly fluctuates. So all you can do is just check back on the application portal. You'll see a calculator, a ticker up there to show what's available. It has I think it has a 15-minute lag on it from our firewall. But that's going to be the best way. Quite often, members will, just kind of put a little reminder to say, hey, I'll check this every morning at 9 a.m. or something like that, and see what happens on there. If we get towards the end of the year and I see that there's funding lingering in the pool that nobody's been grabbing, if I see that you've started, I can see all of the started applications in the system. If we see that you have a started application in the system and funding is lingering at the end of the year, we'll try to send an email to those folks that have the application ready to go. So it's always good to start applications, because you never know when funding is going to be available, other than when we have these big funding drops. You can always give me a call to ask what's in there. If you get an award and you realize that you need more subsidy, shoot me an email or give me a call, and if it's available, I'll give it to you. We're happy to do that, with the exception of the days that the funding is dropped. If you do have a project that you submit an application for, though, and you want to get another big chunk of funds at the next drop, it's pretty easy for that too. Just sit on the initial approval, don't draw the funds. And then when the next funding drop comes along, submit another application for the same business. Put a little note in the project description or the use description saying, we'd like to combine this with our previous award. And if you get that second award secured, I'll just combine them into one project, and then you can disperse the total. So that way you're not stuck with two different loans for the same borrower. So that's one way to access additional subsidy. Other than that, if you do need more throughout the year and it's not the day of a funding drop, you can shoot me an email and I'll try to give it to you if it's meeting the parameters of your member cap at that point. We do have the slides available as a handout attached to this right now. You can grab those. I am recording this, which is why we just have typed in responses instead of anybody actually speaking. So hopefully we'll have this recording available on our YouTube channel. I'm not sure when we'll get it up there, but the slides themselves are available as a handout right here. The question about the cumulative award step up to $250,000. This again is the $250,000 of subsidy. It's not a cap on the advance itself. J&E is a subsidy-based award. That subsidy stays at the Federal Home Loan Bank. It does not go to you. What we're doing again is we're creating a 0% classic advance with no limit to the advance itself, except what that subsidy can buy. So there's often a question about, we want to do $1 million loan, or we want to do a $500,000 loan, and that far exceeds the subsidy or the program, the per member limit. Again, that is the per member limit is just on the subsidy itself, not the advance. And the buying power of J&E, the shorter the advance, the more that you can take on the deal. And again, we can make it work. Quite often these applications will come in early on in a deal, and you haven't quite determined with your borrower what they're going to need and how you want to structure the note. We can absolutely change around the application after the fact to make it work for what you need. If that borrower wants stability over 10 years with a reduced rate, and you want to do a blended rate for 10 years, or if they want to front end load the J&E and have a really low rate at the beginning that converts to a market rate within a few years, that can work too. So we can get creative. We can change stuff around, but just give me a call and I'm happy to talk it through. So we're just about at the end of our time right now. I've gone through all of the questions here. If anybody has anything else, I'm happy to stay on and go through any additional questions that you may have. But if not, if you want to set up a time to discuss the project with me, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email, and we can set up a time to chat and go through everything. Here's my email address. Again, you have until March 6th is the day that we're actually going to be dropping the first tranche of funds. We're going to be dropping on that one $2.5 million of subsidy. So there will be, at a minimum, 25 members getting in with funding. I expect quite a few more will be able to do that. And so we can get you up and ready in advance of that. We've got plenty of time to work through applications. I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you all for attending today. We stand by and ready to help you out with your J&E projects. Again, we really love this program. It is a member favorite, and it provides such a great benefit to your communities. And we're happy to help you work through your deals. And with that, I'm going to sign off, and thank you all for joining.